And welcome back to another week of Pardon the Disruption. I am your host, Weasel, and it's time for a little education and altercations. I'm here with some of my favorite guys, like I am week after week, 11:30 a.m.-ish. So shout out to everybody who is slightly early in the chat. Go ahead and we'll take a minute to allow everyone to introduce themselves because we are waiting for one of the participants to actually pop back in. We had some technical difficulties. So we'll go virtual left to right, starting with Steve Trang. Hello, sir.
Hello. And we are not waiting for him. So it's just going to be like a poker tournament, right? We're just going to blind them off. That's just the way it is. So, but yeah, Steve Trang, Real Estate Disruptors, nationally recognized sales trainer. And we are starting to teach Dispo sales training thanks to the push of Mr. Leon G. Barnes.
Hey, there it is. To his virtual right, we have Leon G. Barnes. How you doing today, sir?
I love the setup. What up, Weasel? Leon G. Barnes. I put the G in CG. I am the director of membership for the Collective Genius. Yeah, you like that, Jimmy? Yeah,
I do like that.
I likes that a lot. I am remote today. I figured if you can't beat them, you might as well join them. So I am in Richmond, Virginia, live today. And since CJ always wins for Virginia, I just decided that Virginia is for lovers and winners, apparently.
There it is. Maybe you had a little something to do with the internet connection, which, you know what, I commend you for.
I might have sabotaged.
To his virtual right, we have a new face on the program, but someone I'm pretty excited to introduce to everyone, Jimmy Vreeland. Jimmy, how you doing today, man?
Hey, Weasel, what's going on, man?
I'm ready to see how you engage with the panel today because the pregame lobby, it was going up a little bit. So I'm excited now that it's lights, cameras, action.
Let's see how I do. Maybe I'll get in the zone.
There we go.
Well, make sure you tell everybody what you do,
introduce
Jimmy.
myself and all that?
Yeah.
Okay. Jimmy Vreeland. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. We turnkey, we wholesale, we fix and flip. If you like St. Louis, we're like a one-stop shop for you.
Yeah, Jimmy's a rock star. And we, if you guys don't know Jimmy, right, we recorded an awesome episode not that long ago with him in our studio. So definitely check him out after this episode.
There it is.
Definitely a little tougher than most everyone else on this panel. The guy just was rolling, doing some MMA stuff right before this. So I would bet on him if we were fighting for sure.
I take him. I take Jimmy.
Okay.
It's a good Thursday, Leon. You get a roll in, get a text to come on Real Estate Disruptors. It's a good Thursday.
There it is. It's favorite day of the week. As always, you know why it's the favorite day of the week? Because we're going to ask you guys a series of 5 questions. We'll give you 45 seconds to answer each in your own opinion, and then we'll open up the floor for a little bit of disruption. Shout out to everyone that is in the chat right now. We see Deandra. Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon to you as well. The Giving Flowers podcast. I thought that was Led Zeppelin, so we're starting the razzing early. All right. We will have CJ joining us in a few minutes, too, while he gets his setup going, but you know, we know how the point system works here, so we're going to go ahead and just start right now and give you guys some early points. So, question number 1, if you guys are ready, let's start.
Let's go.
Yeah.
How would real estate be affected if the United States entered a global conflict? Steve Trang, let's start with you. Your 45 seconds.
Well, I think it's interesting to see what's going on in the world today, right now, even though we're not actually entering a global conflict. We're just kind of do it, by proxy. I think if we were to enter a global conflict, there'd be more uncertainty, and uncertainty is just a stagnant market. So I don't think prices are going to go up or down. I think there'd just be fewer people moving. So I don't think it's going to affect pricing. I think it's just going to affect volume, which I don't know how much lower volume can go, but I think we're about half as where we were last year. But yeah, I think if we enter a global conflict, maybe we even go a little bit lower in activity, but I don't believe it will affect the housing market as far as values.
Okay. All right. And you were under the 45 seconds. Good job. Leon, let's go over to you. How would real estate be affected if the United States entered a global conflict?
Weasel, I like how you gave the boss man a good job on that. Just a little pat. Very nice.
We all need love. Just because I'm a psychopath doesn't mean I don't have feelings.
Every once in a while, Steve actually accepts it. Not most times, but global unrest. My answer is simple. global unrest makes everyone nervous, scared, and hesitant. And when you have a nervous, scared, and hesitant market or markets, people stop investing, people stop using that extra money on other things. So it's like, to Steve's point, he did say that, it may not affect prices because we're about as bottom in some markets like Phoenix, where you guys are, not necessarily bottom, but as low as they've been in a very long time. The other part of this is supply chain. As a flipper, Jimmy will be able to speak to this as well. Supply chain issues is the biggest worry I would have as someone that buys, fixes, and holds assets.
All right, perfect timing. Everyone's sharp this AM. I like it.
Jimmy, Jimmy?
Let's go over to Jimmy. Let's see, what do you think about how real estate would be affected if the United States entered a global conflict?
I completely disagree with Steve and Leon. As long as it's not a global conflict where we're like throwing nukes at each other, soldiers and bombs and everybody costs money. So what the government will need to do is print money. So if we entered a global conflict, as long as it was limited, such as our conflicts in Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, the government would be forced to lower interest rates again. It would be game on again in the real estate industry, even though it's still kind of game on. But interest rates would have to lower. People would flood to hard assets. So they go to gold, silver, and bullets. And then the next closest hedge to those hard assets that actually cash flow is real estate. So, and then little history lesson. How much time do I got left?
2 seconds.
Keep going.
All right. The little history lesson. Real estate blew up after Vietnam. After we won Midway, the stock market and real estate blew up in World War II. The reason 2008 happened was because 2001 happened because we had to go into global war on terror, had to lower interest rates to pay for the wars. So I would like to somewhat respectfully disagree with both Steve and Leon. But if we went into a global conflict, if we weren't throwing nukes at each other, it would be just like COVID, where it would be off to the races because of low interest rates again.
That was very nice of you, Jimmy, but we don't need to respectfully disagree in here.
Yeah,
never waste a good emergency, Steve.
Jimmy, you are a former Army Ranger, so I respect your respect. You can disrespect Steve on this show, though.
Okay. But there's an intricate link between warfare and investing. It's a very interesting history that I had a bunch of time to study. So sorry for geeking out on you.
Oh, that's totally fine. I mean, we got an expert on this. That's pretty cool. So that's good.
Yeah, but the government always, they made up an emergency with COVID, and we all turtled up for 2 weeks, and then we all blew up. Same thing would happen as long as we're not throwing nukes at each other.
Yeah, because you look in the history, right? Growing up, we learn, back when they used to teach history, that every world war, the economy boomed, right? But I thought it was because they had to print tanks and make bullets and guns and whatever. But you're saying because they need to make so many assets, they need to print more money. They need to lower interest rates.
Yeah, how do they pay for this? I'll never forget. In Iraq, we shot every day. It was awesome, but it was target practice every day. And it never occurred to me hey, what's paying to feed me and what's paying for these bullets? And it was government borrowing.
Well, there you have it.
I do want to take a quick second to welcome back CJ. Looks like we got over some of the technical difficulties.
Oh, hey, thanks for joining us, CJ.
Yeah, Jimmy, welcome to the show. Hey, listen, guys, I'll say this real fast. It's good to see everybody, but it's like when I was growing up, right? Leon, make sure you check in next time. But when I was growing up, all right.
I'm sorry, I didn't kiss the ring. My bad, I didn't kiss the ring.
No question. When I was growing up, right, how it would work is we go out to the track at recess, and the fastest kid in the class, myself, right, we would say, you know what, I'm gonna give Leon, Jimmy, and Steve, I'm gonna give them a free lap. Guys, you get a free lap. I'll let you guys take off first. I'll be behind you. I don't want you to quit. All right, I don't want you to quit. So it's good to be back.
Talking a lot of games. Still waiting for you to come out to play some basketball.
I'm working on it.
You allowed me to land in Richmond, which I really appreciate. And you give us a head start, man. I'm winning already.
Nobody can say I'm not a gentleman, man.
Really quickly now, unfortunately, we can't put you into the voting for this one, CJ, but just to get your insight.
Right.
Question number one was,
Doesn't
how would
matter.
real estate be affected if the United States entered a global conflict? Just your thoughts really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, look, right, like a global conflict, is it going to affect the economy? Does it affect real estate? I think 110%. But I think the overarching point at the end of the day is there's a housing shortage. So regardless of where that's going to be at, there's still going to be supply and demand. There's still going to be a need to buy and sell. To me, it's just all about figuring out your spot in the marketplace, being pivotal in what market you're working in, what exit strategies you're utilizing in the business. So yeah, does it have an impact? Sure. But does it have a detrimental impact in that capacity? I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the insight. To let you know as well, there were some comments in the chat that said they were going to vote for CJ anyway. So shout out to you. They are present. But
shout out to the squad. Shout out to the squad.
There it is. But it looks like our newcomer to the program has actually defeated the rest of the panel in a landslide. Jimmy took 58% of the first round votes. How does that feel, Jimmy? Welcome on to the part of the disruption.
That feels great. It feels great, Weasel.
There we go. There we go. All right. Question number 2 is up. So, Jimmy, we will start with you on this question. What do you think about reading a book a week? Is it something that's sustainable, or is it a waste if you're not applying it? Your thoughts, and your 45 seconds starts now.
No, a book a week, like you just do that so you can make some like BS Instagram posts and like I'm really smart. What's work, like if you're really reading a good book, like it should take you like 90 days because you want to chew on it. You want to figure it out. You just don't want to blitz through it. So I try to go with 5 pages a day, or I read till like I have a mind bending idea, because like the best books I've read, it takes 90 days to get through, like Anti-Fragile, Black Swan, those type books. Like you got to chew on that if it's going to actually change your behavior.
Okay. All right. Jimmy he's
that's really
pressure.
It's an annoying topic to me, because like when I see it on Instagram, I'm like, it really annoys me. Like I read this many books this year. I'm so smart.
So, hey Jimmy.
Where did you find this guy, Leon?
Yes. We know you're new, but when that buzzer goes off, that means you're supposed to stop. Just giving you a heads up.
Look, Leon, I wake up to create value. If I'm still creating value at second 46, I'm going to keep going.
Listen, and I'm not going to stop him because he said you for this. And I don't
Thanks, bro.
Let's go over to Leon G. Barnes. What do you think about reading a book a week?
I know one person out of all the people that I've ever met in my life. I know one person that reads a book a week and that actually is smart enough to absorb it and utilize it in his coaching. He's a MAPS coach for KW. I think one of the smartest guys I've ever met in my life. But I can tell you that I've met no other people that can read a book a week and truly apply it at a high level. And to Jimmy's point, I think this is what people that don't read books tell you that they're doing. Just because you skimmed a book and you read the first 50 pages doesn't mean that you're reading a book a week. And that's honestly what I think when I hear someone saying that. It's a waste of time.
They also have a library in their house of all the books they haven't read, but if people come into their house, they think they're smart.
Jimmy, we're going to give you one time to interrupt. One time.
Yeah, if you could, in your 45 seconds, if you could say something more compelling so I wouldn't have to overstep.
Who is this guy? I like this guy. I like this.
It's pandemonium on part of the disruption, and I love it. Jimmy, where you been, man? Where you been? All right, let's go over to Steve Trang. Steve, your thoughts on reading a book a week?
Oh, I like how Leon basically is called reading a book a week like the standing in front of a green Lambo, right? It's just a different way of standing in front of a green Lambo, right? It's just a complete fake. So I personally think reading a book a week is not a good use of your time. I think it's not fruitful in helping your business. I think that you're better off reading the same book over and over again until you've mastered it. It's not a discipline that I maintain very well, just to be completely honest with you. But, I read 100 books at some point in my career. And then I went back to Think and Grow Rich again. I would have gotten more value reading Think and Grow Rich 5 or 10 times versus reading 100 different books, right? So I think what's really critical is not just reading the book, absorbing the book, and applying the book. And that is the part where a lot of people miss it, right? Reading just to read is just a different form of entertainment. You got to apply it. You got to absorb it and apply it.
Okay. And CJ, let's go over to you to bring it home.
Yeah, who made this question? Ty Lopez or something, man? Like, look, nobody's reading a book a week. Nobody's reading all these books. I believe in targeted reading, right? Like, if I'm trying to gain information, understanding on something, if I'm trying to learn how or why about something, I want to read a book specific to that. But reading a book a week, I mean, how do you have time to make any money? How do you have time to run your business? How do you have time to crack shit with Jimmy and make 2 Comma Club awards? I'm waiting for mine to get in here, Jimmy. Like, I mean, look, at the end of the day, nobody's reading a book a week unless they're selling you something and telling you this is what happens if you read a book a week. You get a Lambo and a 2 Comma Club award and whatever weird belt Cava's got on the wall in his office. How about that?
All right, the floor is open.
Well, I brought this up because, you see this, on Instagram. You see this on Facebook. You see people promoting, right, and reading a book a week. So I brought it up because I wanted to get some perspective from everyone else, because maybe someone was going to make a really good argument for it. I was hoping.
Again, I've not seen anyone do it other than one person do it at a high level where they're actually smart enough to absorb and apply. And this is also someone that doesn't watch television, doesn't spend a lot of time on Insta Facebooks and all these other social media sites that I'm too old to understand. But they are very disciplined on learning and applying for their coaching business. And they don't have any other forms of entertainment, frankly.
And I think there's something I learned from Darren Hardy was like, there's just in case learning and there's just in time learning, right? So Chris kind of said like targeted learning, right? That's just in time learning. Just in case learning does nothing for you. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, like I'm trying to read about things I need, things I need to implement, things I need to learn, things I need to understand. Just reading to read, I mean, it seems kind of strange. I mean, I don't know how you make money when you do stuff like that. I mean, I want to know how to do things specifically. I want to understand why are things working the way they are. Why is the question, if we're talking about the global economy, how does the global economy work? Does that matter to me? How does tax preparation work? But just, I don't know, man, picking up books to read. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Jimmy's going to the library and checking out books. But I mean, man, I'm not doing all of that. I'm going to get a book specifically for what I want to read about. I don't believe in audiobooks personally, but that's a different conversation. Read targetedly or target your reading, however you want to say it. That's how you learn. That's how you implement.
Yeah, if somebody's talking about how much they're reading, they're definitely a fart sniffer. They're definitely somebody who wants to appear. They're definitely somebody who wants to appear smart, but like is not getting anything done.
Yeah.
That's not saying people who don't get a lot of stuff done don't read a lot. It's just saying they're not going to talk about it.
Yeah,
I'll make one argument for reading outside of Target, CJ. I've talked about this in our community before. I spend some very special time with my boys reading books. So I read a lot of kids' books with them to have those moments with them. Because a lot of times when the kids come home and you ask them what they learned at school, they tell you nothing. I don't know. I don't remember. A great way to build bonds with kids is reading. So outside, I'll make an argument for entertainment of bonding with your kids is a great way. Reading is a great way to do that. So I'm with you, CJ, on the Target side, but there's also that opportunity.
100%.
I would argue that's targeted, right? Because you're reading with intent. But also, if you want to read kids' books, Leon, you don't have to justify it.
Look. You called me out. Look, the kids' book right there, Percy Jackson. Book 4. See that? Keep it with me at all times. Great way to interact and learn some Greek mythology at the same time.
Yeah, I never did my book reports, man. I just finished them the day of class before school started in the cafeteria, just winging it. I always got an A, man. So it worked out.
I'm not surprised.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, Leon. When you pulled the book up, I was actually impressed at how many pages that book had. Because when you said child's book, I was thinking we were about to see, redfish, bluefish.
Yeah, he's talking about a kid in college over there, man.
Hey, wait a second. Hey, as my boy Eric Brewer says, there's levels to this. There's levels to kids' books as well. This is 10-year-old reading right here, my friend.
I think just to add to what Jim was talking about, right? If they're telling you this, is they're telling you for a reason. It's kind of like the guy tells you he does CrossFit, right? Like it's just another way to brag. You gotta let everyone know you do CrossFit. You gotta let everyone know you do vegan, right?
Yeah, it's like why are you doing CrossFit? You don't look like you work out. You're vegan, but you don't look like you're in shape. What's going on? You're reading books, but you don't know anything. Like, what's happening?
Kind of like when you see guys like Steve Trang showing you videos of him working out with his trainer playing basketball in the morning to get better.
It's like, well, you don't have a jumper. What's going on?
Walked right into that one, Steve.
He's gonna get fouled a little extra love next time.
All right. The voting has closed for question number 2, and it looks like Steve and his non-jump shot having self has won. Congrats, boss man. How do you feel about getting your first early victory?
Feeling good. I feel great beating CJ straight up. So it feels great.
All right. Question number 3, Steve. We're going to start with you. Are we in a balanced real estate market? Please explain why or why not. Your 45 seconds started.
Man, it's really tough to say because I really do think this is market specific. So in the Phoenix market, Phoenix Metro, we are in a balanced market. You know, the supply and demand are exactly the same. They're both low. So that's what's kind of odd. You know, they're both well below what's normal, but supply and demand are even in Phoenix Metro. But man, once you get outside Loop 101, it's a disaster, right? If you the whole idea of drive till you qualify or drive until you can buy, that did not exist for the last 3 years. Right now, it's back, right? I mean, we're seeing the outskirts just getting absolutely crushed and demolished. And I actually had someone send me a deal like, hey, Steve, you think the market's doing it right? You should buy this house. I was like, okay, tell me about it. So I get some Buckeye. I'm out. I already know. I've seen this movie before. The last time we had a recession, the outskirts just got demolished. And I think every market is going to be experiencing that.
Okay. Let's go over to CJ. Are we in a balanced market or not?
No, I don't think we're in a balanced market at all. Look, so I wrote a couple of stats down real fast. Like current national average days on market, 19 days, 70% sold in less than 30 days. There's 3 months of inventory. You want 6 to 12 months of inventory. So in effect, we still currently need housing. I think there's certain pockets, like Steve is saying, right, that are being more adversely affected than others, but there's still a need for housing in a lot of locations. There's still people seeking out housing. I had a conversation with my students yesterday about, you know, congregating around places with military bases. I'm here in Virginia. Think about 757, for example, multiple military bases. People are getting orders every single day to come in, to come out. So you just got to think outside the box a little bit more to get to the places that you want to go. But no, I don't think the market's balanced at all.
Okay. Jimmy, your thoughts?
In the Midwest, not yet. I think we're still in a little bit of a gap between what the asset's really worth and what the seller still thinks it's worth. And then, I agree with CJ. We're still seeing an inventory shortage. So it's not as bad as like last year when you go on an appointment and the seller thought they were selling the Taj Mahal. They're starting to get a little more realistic, but I don't see most sellers getting really realistic till say December this year. But so what I'm seeing in the Midwest is no, we are not in a balanced market.
Okay. All right. And Leon G. Barnes, bring us home. So
I'm always looking at a perspective of nationwide, and everyone touched on this on local markets. From a nationwide perspective, the definition of balance is the distribution of weight so that things remain upright and steady. There's nothing steady or upright about a nationwide perspective of real estate right now. The conversations that I'm having on our weekly calls within our community, every single person is different. You'll have someone in Kansas City, days on markets have gone to 90 days, but ARVs have remained pretty solid, right? But they're just taking longer to sell. Where in Phoenix, where you guys are, there's a 25% change, and it's still not necessarily hit bottom in some of the markets like Phoenix, Boise, and others. So no, it's not balanced.
Okay. Voting is now open, and so is the floor.
Chris is saying shout out to the vegans. Get out of here. He's posting it in the chat.
Yeah, shout out to the vegans, man. Beyond Meat, Impossible Meat.
Man, this guy is just this. He's not. He's running for office right now, right? He's saying whatever the people need to hear. Hey, Leon, when you say it's not balanced,
interact with the chat.
Yeah. So Leon, you're saying it's not balanced, but are you saying it's buyer market, seller's market? What is that? What do you mean when you say it's not balanced? Or when you say, yeah, it's not a balanced market?
Well, there's there's all different types of things that I'm looking at from a nationwide perspective. From a seller's perspective, obviously it has changed dramatically, and from a buyer standpoint, obviously they've gone from 3% interest rate to 7%. So you do have it's more of a buyer's market than it is a seller's, but there's no balance across the board on anything that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I think something to consider too, right, is like if you've got national home builder production essentially coming to a halt, right? They account for a large portion of the inventory that touches any type of any metro market. They account for a large portion of inventory. You know, those people still are going to be seeking housing somewhere, right? Like here in Richmond, tons and tons of builders here locally have essentially called a pause. They're calling it the Great Pause. And so I think there's still opportunities. I just listed a house yesterday. I haven't talked to my agent, so I don't know if we sold it or not. If he's watching, send me a text, man. Send me a text. But, you know, hopefully we get it sold pretty fast. But when I listed last week, man, it flew off the shelf. So I think there's still opportunities there, but I think it's about having balance inside of the market. I think it's being aware of what price points make sense. And I think everybody needs to start looking at their business a little bit more macro, right? Like it's not just, hey, any deal that comes across my desk, if it's got equity potential in it, I want to pick it up, I want to flip it, etc. It's more for me right now. What are the price point pockets within the submarket, right? So what submarkets within the market are actually moving and transacting right now? Here in Richmond, under a price point of $250,000, it looks really good right now. Stuff's flying off the shelf. If you go up to $350,000 right now in Richmond, it doesn't look so good. So you got to really go ahead.
Yes. I'm sorry, CJ, but I want to add that mid-luxury, right? That market right now across the U.S. and it varies. In Phoenix, it's different than Virginia or the Midwest. Above 300 in his marketplace, where it's that buyer that extra 3-4% really affects. But anything that's median or below, yeah, I'm selling those all day or still holding those assets. So from that standpoint, yeah, you can still move properties and you can still do the business, but it's just tightened.
And like when the first time home buyer decides to buy, they're going to buy. Now they're buying. They don't really care about the interest rate. Like they're millennials, so I'm not really sure if they're smart enough to understand how it affects. But
well,
they're going to buy a smaller house now. They're still going to buy. They're like, oh, I got my Chihuahua and I got to have my fenced yard for my Chihuahua. And I'm living the millennial dream. I don't care what the interest rate is.
Yeah,
Jimmy's a good person to talk about this. The guy does a couple hundred turnkey assets, and he's still selling, properties every single day. So I don't want people to that there's a buyer's opportunity here, but I don't want people listening and going, man, I should be afraid to flip, or I should be afraid to try to sell properties. You can still sell them.
Well, from the investor perspective, I still think the rents are unbalanced. Like, best thing for investors right now is the next 2 years, prices level, drop 5%, and then rent. I don't see any force that allows rents to come down. So we are still seeing rents come up, which is very interesting.
Well, I mean,
especially to CJ's point, builders are pausing.
Well, with interest rates going up, right? The cost of purchase is going up. So what's your alternative, right? You got to live somewhere. So if you're not buying, you're renting. If you're renting, the anchor, right, what you're comparing to is what's going to cost to buy this property. Here's what you're going to have to pay to rent this property. And Leon, you gotta fix your internet. I think looks like Frank and Chris are sharing internet or something. I don't know. Maybe just the way it is.
Shout out to Richmond City, man. Shout out to Richmond City.
The voting is currently open. It looks like just half of the amount of viewers in here are voting. So please make sure you vote right now for who you thought won that.
They're voting for the politician. This is ridiculous. They're voting for Chris. She loves vegan.
Yeah, shout out to the vegans, man. Shout out to the vegans.
Are you a vegan, Chris?
Nah, part-time. Only on Wednesdays, Jimmy. Only on Wednesdays.
I can't stand that people are vegan part-time. You either do and go hardcore. That's a bad idea, but at least I can respect your dedication.
That's fair. Look, Jimmy, I've been reading books.
Your proteins to get into you got to get that protein into your brain, man.
The voting has closed. It looks like CJ is finally on the board. He took 66%. It may or may not have been the vegan remarks, but it doesn't matter. The point is there. CJ, you're on the board, and how do you feel?
I feel good, man. It's good to be back, man. And Weasel, remember what I said. Sometimes you just got to give a lap to take two, man.
There it is. Well, this will be a very, very interesting fourth question because we got a three-way tie, 1 point apiece for Steve, Jimmy, and CJ, and Leon's still yet to get on the board. But I got faith in you, Leon. I may or may not slide you a few extra seconds on this next question. With that being said, we'll start with CJ, last round's winner. With the interest rates affecting residential real estate, do you think they're also affecting commercial real estate? Your 45 seconds starts.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think what we're seeing right now is this dynamic shift of, like, I have conversations with people who do multifamily, and they talk like, because you plan so far in advance for a multifamily project. So the people that are currently in a spot where they're going to potentially need to refinance, people that are in a position where they've been planning a development project for 1, 2, 3 years, that now they were anticipating being able to start at this time. That has real cause and effect, right? Like if you look at how a commercial loan functions, especially a construction loan that's transitioning into perm, if I'm in multifamily right now, I'm definitely going to have some pause for concern because the percentage of interest on 10 million or 5 million or 1 million is drastically greater than it is on $100,000. So I think people that focus specifically on multifamily, especially new projects, they've got a lot of thinking to do in this moment. 110%.
Okay. Steve Trang, your thoughts?
All right. So historically, what we've always seen is that the commercial market follows the residential market. So if residential does well, commercial does well. Residential goes down, commercial goes down. Now, for me, the biggest concern is interest rates, right? Every time the Fed bumps the rate, this is directly affecting the amount of money or the terms that someone can borrow at. And unfortunately, what you can borrow at and the cap rate, which is how you value a property, are very much correlated as far as I understand. So if interest rates are going up, the cap rate, the return on investment has to go up, and the return on investment has to go up. The only way to fix that is to lower the value of the property. So if you buy a property at 4% or you buy a property at 8%, is literally a 50% difference in value. So I don't see how the commercial market does not get dramatically affected by everything going on with the Fed.
Okay. Leon, your thoughts?
No
Leon,
audio.
Oh, no audio, Leon. Don't worry. I won't start the clock. We'll give him a couple seconds.
He's on mute. You got to log out, log back in.
Go to Jimmy.
Let's go over to Jimmy. Yeah, let's go over to Jimmy. Jimmy, your thoughts?
Yeah,
on
Steve. I mean, I wanted, it's your podcast. I wanted to do my best to, be a professional and be here and make sure my internet works and my audio works. But that's just me.
Yo, no, I like this guy, man. I like this guy.
Yeah, I mean, cap rates for multifamily sucked before the interest rates went up. So I'm assuming cap rates really suck, which to me is another reason I'm bullish on single family. The Wall Street for 20 years has tried to make single family residential an institutional asset. And like we cracked the code during COVID of doing this. And this is going to put more pressure to get single family real estate to be a more sophisticated asset. So
An asset class.
cap rates already sucked with low interest rates. Now they really suck. That's good for us, the single family people. Like they're trying to figure out how to make this an institutional asset.
Perfect. On spot, 45 seconds. Jimmy's coming in here like he's a vet. Internet working.
I'm just trying to be a professional, Weasel. I get invited by a friend on their podcast. I try to respect them.
Leon, are we good on your end now?
I mean, it's 11:30 on Thursday. People are taking off work and stuff. Like, hey, and now we have to delay them for internet and communication issues. Like, what is that doing to our audience?
We're getting sabotaged on two different levels. Jimmy's a former government employee. I bring him on. He's shutting me down. I got CJ, Virginia. Something's wrong with the internet here in Virginia. Maybe that's down the way. I don't know. But, I'm just being sabotaged here. The good thing is on this particular question, I don't need all 45 seconds. There's no counterpoint to this. Obviously, it affects the commercial side. a lot of our multifamily apartment complex syndication guys, self-storage guys within our Collective Genius family, they've all been affected by this. But I will say they're all smart, they're all savvy, and there's been a lot of retrading that has happened during this time frame. It's been easy for them to negotiate down that price to Steve's cap rate position. If the numbers don't pencil, I've got to either retrade or this deal doesn't make sense and there's no reason to move forward. So obviously it has affected commercial as much, if not more, than any other.
Yeah. I think, to Chris's point earlier, like my biggest concern is if you bought a property and you plan on doing a refi, right, in 3 to 5 years, and you started the project with the interest rates at 4, and now in 3 to 5 years, the interest rates are at 8 or 9 or 10. How are you going to do a refi? It's going to be a really interesting situation.
It's a tough.
You better have your ass out in the street raising private money.
Yeah, you're in a tough spot. I think a lot of multifamily people aren't speaking on it at the moment, but I think a lot of people are. I want to point out something Jimmy said. He just dropped some game that maybe people did not catch. But with single family houses become an asset class after the Great Recession, what Wall Street is seeing right now, institutional financing is seeing right now, is how great of an asset single family housing actually tends to be. And that a compounding return on single family in many ways, when you have the type of capital stack that an institutional fund does, can certainly supersede greatly what a multifamily project may be able to do. Does it take more management? Does it take more infrastructure? 110%. But what we're seeing in our relationships with hedge funds is they're aggressively trying to figure that out. They're going and purchasing neighborhoods here in Richmond directly from builders and purchasing the entire neighborhood. I think that's going to become a very common practice here in the near future. And so I think that we're in just a different dynamic than we were, in 2008, 2010, where single family housing, I think, is going to be the institutional stabilized asset that a lot of people are going to be starting to look at.
CJ, I would add to that I think you're absolutely correct with that, but it goes back to both of them. We've talked about that before on this show. They're buying both. They understand that multifamily and single family is valuable, and they're just trying to figure out buying it nationwide and being able to control that and manage it at a high level. That's the hard part, but they understand both. So they're buying both is the answer.
And maybe, people are finally figuring out that stocks is a complete waste of time.
They really are, though.
They don't figure that out until we're ready to retire.
If you got all of Wall Street trying to get onto Main Street, like that should I tell my buyers this all the time. That should send you a signal. Like if they're trying to get into single family residential, and you're still investing in the stock market and you can get a 30-year fixed loan, you're a silly pants. Pay attention, wake up.
Or investing in said fund when they could come to Jimmy, and I don't know Jimmy, but they could come to Jimmy and buy from him turnkey and get a better return without very much headache at all. We're in a dynamic shift for sure.
We talked about this before. Jimmy and I talked about this a lot. When you are currently holding assets, the more assets you can get your hands on are more assets that eventually institutions are going to want to buy. So if you are in 5 years, you're sitting there with 500 doors, you have the golden ticket. A lot of those properties that people were wholesaling the last 3 years, I was always cherry pick at least 3 of those a month and hold on to them, because once you sell them to the institution, you're not getting those properties back anytime soon. And to CJ's point earlier, they're not making any more right now, at least.
And I love them too, because I think they set the floor. So if there's a massive sell-off, hedge funds will come in and buy everything up.
So one last thing we've learned from this particular question is that Jimmy watches a lot of Buddy the Elf, because he gave us a silly pants reference. So we're just going to name Jimmy Buddy the Elf.
In his defense,
I thought it was a Blue's Clues. Reference.
In his defense, he asked for what is he allowed to say and not allowed to say, respectfully, prior to the show.
A good, hey, you're a silly goose plays better on a family podcast than like an MF.
We're going to need part of the disruption after dark, because I want to hear the uncensored version.
Oh, we'd have some fun with that.
Hey, listen, you're 2 for 2. Fart sniffer, silly pants. I'm all in. I
think Jimmy had a show. Was it Entrepreneurs After Hours? What was the name of that show?
Oh, it's Entrepreneurs Drinks.
Entrepreneurs drinks.
I would just, this is when I had like 60 rentals and I had quit my job. Like 2 weeks after I quit my job, I'm like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur now. Like, I'm awesome. So I would just get drunk and tell everybody what I knew. It was a very dark time in my life.
Guys, that's financial freedom. There you go. That's financial freedom right there.
The voting is still open right now. We actually have a two-way tie, so let's allow some more time to go through so we can clear up this tie right now between CJ and Steve. 40% each is a big point. It's a big point for everybody.
Yeah, shout out to these VAs, man. I want to give a special shout out real fast.
Hey, go vegans.
I want to shout out. Yeah, go vegan. Go vegan. I love it.
Really quickly, I do want to highlight some of the chats. We have a lot of Jimmy's hilarious, Jimmy's wild, LOL Jimmy chat. Jimmy is very popular in the chat right now. We do have some.
Well, why don't we get any points for like being funny? What?
It's not in the scoring system. You gotta learn how to play by the rules.
Humor?
Listen, on my personal scoreboard, you're up. Which is really important, just not essential to the program right now.
I appreciate that, CJ. Thank you.
We're still at a three-way tie. Looks like CJ's pulling up ahead really quickly. In the meantime, while the voting closes, I do want to encourage everyone to subscribe, like the video, as well as share it with a friend, share it with a colleague, share it with a family member. Look out for the Part of the Disruption official YouTube channel where we upload all of the clips and highlights from the show, as well as shorts. So look for that YouTube channel as well. And we are still at a tie. So
shout out real quick while we're waiting for that tie break, man. I just want to shout out my guy EB. All right, shout out to Eric Brewer Method, because if he was here and not Jimmy, I'd be winning for sure. So shout out to Eric Brewer. All right, shout out to my guy EB. All right, hope he's doing well in his travels today. All right, shout out to him.
Yeah, we got these two comic club guys. They're just trouble. Man, we've gotten way more votes than.
Here we go. Yeah, the voting is still going through. Jimmy, I do got one question for you. Because there's a member of the regular panel, right, who once told me that if he had a table in the club, he would not share his bottles with me, nor would he allow me into his country club. So just in vetting you as a candidate, potential replacement, how do you feel about maybe Big Weez in your section at the club?
There you go.
Like, why wouldn't he let you in?
And we're still trying to figure it out.
Jimmy, he wasn't making enough bread, bro. He didn't have enough money coming in.
I'm kind of, believe it or not, you would not find me at a club often. Maybe like the last 10 years. So I'd be concerned that I'd be invited. You know what I mean?
Weasel, look, bro. Weasel, you can come hang out with me. Jimmy's just drinking, reading books, and talking about renting real estate. I don't know what Steve's doing. He ain't even drinking.
But like beers on my boat, like wake surfing, any day of the week, for sure.
Jimmy's hired.
Jimmy's
hired.
Jimmy's not at the club. Jimmy doesn't skip leg day, arm day, chest day, back day. He's doing all those days. No clubs anymore for Jimmy.
Yeah, I like to keep my shit tight for the misses.
The voting looks like it just closed up, and CJ took it by 3%. Just a few votes. Man. Big second point for CJ.
I've listened to this. CJ has like an army of VAs like voting for him, right? Like that's the conspiracy.
Is that a conspiracy?
Next time if you give me more than a half hour's notice, I'm gonna have all my VAs on.
There you go.
All right, let's go on to question number 5. Actually, really quickly before question number 5, we do want to shout out this week's sponsor, Call Magicians. So thank you, Call Magicians, for presenting Part of the Disruption this week. We finally got a sponsor, y'all. We did it.
I had to cold call for hours. I just hired a cold caller instead.
And just for clarity's sake, we didn't discuss like potential incentive for the host, right? That wasn't
the CEOs and the owners have to get back in.
What's that?
No doubt about that.
CEOs and owners of businesses have to get back in with their teams. Great job.
Thank you.
Golden rule of leadership. Way to go, Steve.
Appreciate it.
All right, you guys ready for question number 5? If you recruited a top-tier talent and they're underperforming, i.e. Russell Wilson, how long before you're cutting ties? Let's go with CJ first.
Yeah, I think you fire fast. I think you fire quickly. Hire slow, fire fast. It's the old saying, right? Like at the end of the day, it looks to me like this. It's easy to create top talent if you got proper systems, training, and you have them people in the right environment. Is top talent special? Sure. But let's look at Jordan Poole's new contract with the Warriors, right? Like that's farm system talent that's been drafted, been brought in and groomed and brought up. I don't think that's difficult to do in your business. I think you can create top talent with training, dedication. If you look at these Fortune 500 companies, what do as soon as they bring you in? They bring you into highly intensive training, and they have consistent ongoing training at all times, and they create their own top talent within the organization. So I'd get them fired, man, and build somebody else up.
Okay. All right. Steve Trang, you were second place last round. What do you think?
We have to emphasize that second place. Anyway, we were talking about in the context of like, if you traded for somebody, right? Or you had like a long-term contract, what do you do in that situation? Because I think it's a tougher situation. If you had to trade away assets, you had to sign them to a long-term commitment, you have a signing bonus, this and that. So in that scenario, though, you still got to let them go, right? Like it's a sunk cost, right? If you spend a bunch of money to recruit this talent, you went through all this effort, wined and dined and whatever, and they bomb, you can't have them around. They're either it's going to be a situation where they're not providing enough output, or you're letting the rest of the team know that you tolerate mediocrity or sub-mediocre performance, and that hurts the team even more. So you got to let them go.
Okay. Jimmy, your thoughts?
I'd say 2 quarters. If they're messing with team chemistry, if they're not core value fit, immediately fire. But I give them 2 quarters. I give them their first quarter to, hey, clearly you're not hitting your targets. You got 90 more days to square it away. But, your first 90 days in any organization, you're not really hired. It's like a testing ground. And so if they're clearly not hitting at 90 days, it's a strike one conversation saying, hey, here's what we brought you on to do. Clearly not doing this. What can we as a team help you to do that? And then I guess if it's at quarter 2 and they're still not hitting, time to start over.
Okay. And let's bring it on over to Leon G. Barnes. Your thoughts?
If we're answering this question from a corporate perspective, and you've got to have a verbal notice and a first written and a second notice before a final notice, it's a longer period of time. But if we're talking to most real estate investors that watch this show that may have a team of 1 to 20 employees, if you are recruiting high level talent, which I encourage you to be doing during this downturn, now is a time where you can find some really good employees. You'll find them even more so in Q1 and Q2 as the bottom starts to drop out and people are laying more talented people off. But I am a firm believer, having managed for a very long time, that within a 90-day time frame with these 2 things, training and proper onboarding, say that again, proper training and proper onboarding, that within 90 days, no matter who you bring in, how talented they are, you will know. If we're talking about from a real estate investing perspective as a business owner, you'll know within a 90-day time frame.
Okay. Floor
and then,
out.
Leon, don't you think you need the next 90 days to be building your bench and hiring again? Because I hate it when you have that void.
I agree with you that, Jimmy, that yes, it would be nice to have that extra time. But I think if we're advising, we're talking to most business owners that watch this show, today's point of fast is usually this particular. We're not talking about Russell Westbrook contract that you're stuck with, because that's a guaranteed contract. We're talking about an at-will employee. 90 days, you should know whether they're the level of person. And we said, there's the key word, recruited talent, not entry-level employee, recruited talent. You'll know within a 90-day time frame if that's a six-figure level individual.
Get after him.
Yeah,
man.
and I would be taking a deep dive into my business, being like, why can't this high performer perform in my systems and processes? Like, I'd probably be a good learning exercise of what are you not doing right?
Or they sold you on how great they were and they weren't.
Yeah. The best, the people that interview the best turn out to be the worst employees. Jimmy, when he said 2 quarters, like, man, cut Russell Wilson after 2 quarters. Like, this guy is savage.
Jimmy is that. I think one thing to point out too, for me personally, in my own journey, and what I see in a lot of other people as well, generally it's just fear that causes you not to fire, right? Fear of retaliation, fear of reputation, fear of loss of revenue, fear of being unable to replace. And so you get stuck in this vortex of trying to work with somebody, trying to get somebody on the same page and yada, yada, yada. I think getting somebody out the door is just really critical because, look, if I need somebody to learn sales, I'll send them to Steve. If I need somebody on my team to learn how to properly pitch and evaluate and facilitate a turnkey rental opportunity, maybe I'll send them to Jimmy, right? Like you got to be able to move people in the right way to get them to where it is that you need them to go. And you got to get people out the door quick.
And I think if you address that from the beginning, look, I'm going to give you every resource, all the training that you need. If I give you all of these things, we will both know if this is the right fit in the first 3 months. And if it isn't, then it's not on me, it's not on you, it's just not the right fit. If you set the proper expectations, especially with recruited talent, I'm not going to allow you to I heard someone say this, it may have been Charles Barkley. I'm not paying you for what you used to do. I'm paying you for what you're doing right now, right? And if I'm giving you all the resources, I need today performance, not past performance.
Okay. All right. The voting is open right now. Currently in the lead is CJ, but Jimmy is right behind him. He's right behind him. He's on his tail. So we'll give a few minutes.
Well, and then also, if you're
sorry.
new to this hiring game, you got to set that other expectation that, hey, these first 90 days are a trial period, that you like us and we like you. And then we're definitely going to review this in 90 days.
Yeah, I think too, right? Like when I was a kid and they bring you into the principal's office and then they're telling you each week, like, hey, you did this, like it's on paper, right? And so then 3 months later when they say, hey, CJ, look, like we gotta put you out for a week at least, bro. Right? Like I'm not shocked at that point. Like I got the paper going home for 4 weeks prior to that. Like I know I was messing up. So I think it's the accountability piece that means something as well.
It's one of the hardest things for most business owners to do.
Yeah. And then I love the new age, keeping people accountable. All you do is say, hey, why are you here? What do you want? And then you write that down. And then you say, if they're not hitting it, you'd be like, hey, remember when you told me you wanted this? Do you still want this? Like, you're not doing what you need to do to get there. Like, what can I do to help you? And then you're right, CJ, like 4 conversations like that, like the person will start looking.
Right. No doubt.
Like, you're not going to have to fire them. But I love holding people accountable like that.
You don't have to fire if you set proper expectations. You talk them out of the job more often than they quit.
Yeah. I'm not seeing a lot of questions here in the chat, so we still need a 6th question. Hopefully the audience is paying attention here.
We do have a 6th question, and we did have some questions submitted earlier in the chat. So thank you for everybody who was submitting questions. We do see those. We potentially will use some of those questions on the next program as well. So thank you for everybody who was submitting questions. Please continue to do so. We are waiting on the voting for this last question to announce a winner. And then we will continue. So, yeah, my fault if anybody had any other closing statements that they wanted to make. Sounds like we're good.
Well, I mean, cut Russell Wilson, cut Russell Westbrook. Just get rid of all of them.
Oh, there was
listen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Weasel, listen, Russell Westbrook, Russell Wilson, just call me LeBron of the game, man. That's all you got to do.
Stop.
All right.
Talk's a big game for someone that's never played basketball.
Never? CJ never played ball?
Man, I've been hooping, man. Steve's going to see soon, man. It's all dubs over here, man.
The Giving Flowers commented and said, man, come on, why not say Baker Mayfield for the question instead of Russell Wilson? It's because we were discussing top-tier talent.
That's got to be Baker Mayfield. That's got to be Baker Mayfield himself watching the program.
We're talking about former MVP level talent.
Right. It looks like CJ took that round. 40% of the votes went to CJ. So another point for Chris Jefferson. Sir, going into question number 6. Are you ready for this last question?
Let's do it.
All right. How would you spend 24 hours if you had a 9-to-5, but were looking to eventually go full-time into your own business? Time starts.
I'll jump in. So I never had a 9-to-5 per se. I've had a 3 to midnight. And so I know for me, when I worked 3 to midnight, my life revolved around real estate. I stopped going out. I stopped going on dates. I stopped hanging out with my friends. I sacrificed everything for what I said that I wanted. And so in the capacity of being able to do that, I would go to sleep. As soon as I got off work, I'd get home, I'd go to sleep. I'd wake up 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. At the time, there was no YouTube videos. There was no free content all over IG, free Facebook groups. I would get up and I would get on Bigger Pockets and I would learn. I would just read and I would learn. And I did that until it was time to go implement. And then I would implement and I would be late for work every single day. I'd leave at 2:42 every day so I could get to work at 3:05 before I got a tardy on my attendance sheet to get to work. And I started doing deals when I got the F out the building. And now I get to hang out with these guys all the time.
There you go. There you go. All right, let's go to Jimmy. What do you think?
I would just accept, like most jobs, like you got to work 8 hours. You got still another good 4 working hours. And so you just discipline yourself to work 4 hours on whatever your side hustle is. It's not that hard. And I know you could be like, oh, I got the wife and kids. Well, like my kids are like 11 and under. They go to bed at 8. So you can still hop on and stay up till midnight. And then just remember, sleep's a crutch. Like if you really want to do this, like you just won't sleep and it's not that big a deal. Like you won't die. So the short answer is just accept that you're going to work 4 hours a day. Like I was like CJ, I was in medical sales. So I was in surgeries and I always would keep my hair really long so I could have wireless headphones in the hairnet and I'd be listening to podcasts and audiobooks while I'm supposed to be paying attention to surgeries. But like that's how bored I was in corporate and that's how much I wanted it. So like, I mean, CJ, wouldn't you agree? Like if you want it, it's so easy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like for me, man, like I used to wake up crying. Like I wanted it that bad. And so when you really want something that bad and you mean it, you just go after it relentlessly and you're willing to sacrifice to get it.
But like if you expect it to be like Fred Flintstone, like you hear the bell ring and you slide down the dinosaur and then you're just going to like play PlayStation the rest of the night, like won't happen.
Exactly.
Let's go over to Steve. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say if you're working at 9 to 5, you got 2 different times that you can work, right? Like you don't have to wake up at 7 or 7:30. You can wake up at 5, 4:30, or 4, right? That's an option. So, The Miracle Morning is one of the best books, I think, for, the morning habits. So waking up earlier, you got time there. After work, right? When you're done at 5, get to work. Actually go prospect, go market, go do stuff. Now, one of the biggest things I see is when people are early parts is they're spending all this time learning, consuming content, right? And as a content provider, creator, like this might sound crazy, but you should limit your learning to no more than 30 minutes a day. I think that there are times, right, where you're constantly learning, constantly preparing and this and that. You just got to go do. Go make a mess.
But Steve, if I do that, I won't be able to do my post where I read 100 books in a year.
Well, you'll still get to write it. Like we learned from Jimmy earlier, you don't have to actually read it. You just write it. So anyway, you don't have to be constantly learning, right? Just half an hour a day at most. The rest of your time going and applying, doing, executing what you're learning, because there's things that you think you know, and you go do it and you realize what you knew was completely wrong. And the only way to get better is actually go execute.
Okay. Leon G. Barnes, bring us home.
We got to teach the format of this show to everyone again. It's not back and forth until the end. Give me my 45 seconds back. So if I'm a 9 to 5er and I've got a lot of members of our community that started this way, that are all grossing $1 million plus a year, because they started out on their lunch hours making cold calls. Right after they got off, on the way home, they made another 10, 15 calls on the way home, while at night watching YouTube and all the free resources to make me super dangerous, that I become one of Steve's 100 millionaires. So the resources that are available today, there's a ton that are available to you. It's on you. I don't allow my kids to say the word can't for a reason. To it, and there's tons of time available after those 8 hours. One little side hack, though, I would tell you that if you're someone that's sitting on the couch eating Cheetos right now, I would look into being an Uber driver and drive for dollars while I'm making money. It's a great side your real estate potential portfolio and or getting it into wholesaling, because you're driving all day. You can be looking for.
Let me add a couple other things here, right? You don't need more than 6 hours of sleep. maybe you don't need more than 5 hours of sleep while you're hustling and grinding, right? So I would say that's the first. Eat more than 1 meal a day. I just finished a 7-hour fast. Right? You don't need to eat more than once a day. Everything once a day is really extra. So you don't need to eat as much as you think you need to eat. You don't need to sleep as much as you need to sleep. If you really want it, right? The question is not about what you want. The question really is, what price are you willing to pay to get what you want? So just think about that.
Shout out to the vegans. No, one thing I'll say too, I think people have to understand this isn't a fitted in thing. Like real estate investing, like this is a sacrifice career in many, many ways. And I see every day. So when we have this conversation 24 hours in a day, work an 8-hour shift. Hey, I got time with my family. Hey, I got time with my spouse. I got to watch Netflix. I got to do this. I got to do that. They're just trying to figure out how to fit it in, right? Hey, when can I fit some time in the cold call? When can I fit some time in the text? When can I fit some time in the drive for dollars? And the reality of it is, at the end of the day, it's something that you got to integrate fully into what you have going on. When you have systems, process, and a team in place, that's how you really make it work.
Yeah, I would say.
And then the other thing is like what adds fuel to your fire is active income. So I looked at my corporate job as like, dude, this is paying for my dream job. So I started working harder corporately because it was fueling all I was doing on the side. So whatever you're doing, and then sleep less, and then it's like Chris said and Steve said, it's 4 hours a day. Like you can prioritize that. You can get 2 before, and then
I said the other day, I thought this was great, right? There's nothing more expensive if you're trying to become an entrepreneur than a gaming system. The PlayStation. It's nothing more expensive than a gaming system, and the output right behind that, Netflix or whatever TV you're watching.
My favorite boss of all time when I was in the corporate world, when I would tell him that I didn't have time for something, his response was always, time for what's important to you. So if real estate is important, you find the time, you make the time. If playing PlayStation is important to you, you'll find real estate is important, you find the time. Lunch hours, breaks, after hours, after you put down your kids, you make it happen. I personally have talked to millionaires that started hustling this way after their W-2 job was over and in between.
I think this question was a reminder of the program and its value truly. Free game, everyone. Free game. If you are in the chat, this is free game. We do have a comment from the Giving Flowers. He said, I do follow-ups from the excavator every day. So he's putting it in motion, just kind of how you guys were speaking. So, amazing question.
Hey, shout out to him.
Yeah, man.
I'm sure it's fun. I'm sure it breaks up the day.
When this is another part of this as well, what Weasel just said about listening to what the professionals are telling you. Steve, your camera's going a little crazy there.
I know, it's rolling its eyes.
It's totally rolling its eyes. Listen to what the mentors and the professionals tell you. Like I have a good friend that CJ's working with. I said, no matter what, just listen to what CJ tells you to do. Just do what he says and you'll be successful. Get out of the way get out of your own way. Just do what CJ tells you.
You think about that, CJ?
I think it's highly
accurate.
Steve,
was your camera guy like doing a follow-up or cold calling right there?
Maybe he's working
on the
job.
Camera guy side hustling?
He might be side hustling. I'll have to talk to him.
To Leon's point real fast, it's funny, I've had thousands and thousands of students, and here's what I've realized. It's a distinct separation between who has success and who doesn't. The ones that come in and take the information and then put the play in motion as it's taught and presented have success. The ones who don't, they struggle to find out the fact that that's all that they need to do. And it's not just me, it's anybody credible that has a system that functions and works. That's how I've gotten to where I've gotten. That's how I got a 2 Comma Club award. I bought a course. I followed exactly what it told me to do in the course and it worked. Right. And so you have to get dedicated to a process to get a result. Too many people are creating multiple processes to try to get one desired result.
Yeah, I mean, I think to that point, one challenge that I think a lot of entrepreneurs have is they'll consume the content and then they got to add their own spin to it, right? Stop. Stop adding your spin, right? Just master what you've learned, and then after you've mastered it, then you can add your spin to it.
It's no different in business and in sports. As a former assistant high school basketball coach, a kid would tell me, "Look, coach, I'm really good at this, but that's not what I asked you to do. I asked you to do this because I saw the opportunity for you to be better with this particular move, play, what have you." But that's how most people, human beings, are in general, whether it's sports or business. I'm going to show you what I can do versus just follow the steps that are given to you for people that have proven that they can be successful with that process. That's the key part, though. Follow people that have had success, not necessarily those that have not, or at least.
Or they're the ones that took a week.
Yeah.
Well, and then taking the time to post about it. It's one thing to read a book a week, and then it's another thing to be a fart sniffer posting about it. Like, that's the absolute worst.
Hashtag fart sniffers in the chat, please. Run it up.
All your heavy readers in your audience right now are canceling us, Steve.
That's right. They're probably associated with the vegans.
There's some new hashtags created. The most famous one is "Don't be a Richard." You got at least 2 more from this.
Oh yeah, for sure. We got more T-shirts we can make now, for sure. The voting closed with CJ just edging Steve on that one. So the champ this week, the champ with 4 points. He missed the first round. He put you.
Honestly,
notice.
CJ, I'm new here. Like, you created some value, but not like winning by 3 points. Like, let's be honest. Like, what's he doing to rig the game?
Hey, Jimmy, first and foremost, man, I appreciate that. Welcome to the show. All right. Number 2, you'll learn pretty soon. I haven't met you before, man. It's great to meet you, but you'll learn pretty soon. You'll learn pretty soon. There's a couple new big dogs around, bro. That's what you'll figure out. Right? We'll figure it out soon.
He's just acting like we all just got into prison, and he's just representing, just puffing his chest over here.
Dog, man. Sometimes there's a new dog on the yard, man. You know, that's just how it goes, man.
Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in, for submitting your comments, submitting your questions, for voting. I do want to take a second to let everybody sign off. Let's start off with Steve Trang.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys again for coming, supporting and, voting for CJ. We try to give as much value as possible. So, and it's awesome that we actually got to have Jimmy here, previous guest on Real Estate Disruptors. I think he added some interesting flavor as well. So it was awesome, make it a little bit spicier. But yeah, Steve Trang, Real Estate Disruptors, we're all passionate about helping you guys close more sales. And now that includes acquisitions and dispositions.
All right, let's go over to clearly this week's fan favorite, Jimmy. Go ahead and sign off, man.
Oh, well, guys, thanks for having me on. I had a great time. This was awesome. And yeah, if you guys are interested in any of that inflation type stuff and the wars and everything, check us out on cashflowtactics.com. We got all kinds of videos about that interesting topic.
There we go. Hopefully we get to see you soon again on the program. Leon G. Barnes, sign us off.
Yeah, I'm glad I get to follow Jimmy because I get to say thank you for being on the show. Thank you for your service, my friend. A lot of people don't know that Jimmy's a former Army Ranger, West Point grad, and he's a personal friend. I knew he would crush it on this show with us. And I can say that this is the most I've ever smiled and laughed on this show, while at the same time giving a lot of great value from all perspectives. So that's my kumbaya moment for Pardon the Disruption. Had a great time this week, guys.
Definitely. And the champ, this week's champ again, Chris Jefferson and CJ, sign us off.
Yeah, Jimmy, I got to apologize to Jimmy first, I guess. I didn't know he was like a Terminator or something, man. So thank you for your service. All right. I was just kidding, bro. I was just kidding. All right.
You're safe. I don't have time to go out to Virginia this week.
All right. There you go. All right. Shout out to everybody, man. Shout out to the U fam. Shout out to everybody watching. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you like, share it. Tell somebody about it. Steve, Leon, it's always great to see you gentlemen as well. Much love to everybody.
Definitely. Thank you guys again for your contribution to the program. For anyone that is still in the audience, please check out the Part of the Disruption YouTube channel. You can rewatch each of these segments individually, send them to a friend again, send them to a colleague, a family member. We will see you next Thursday, 11:30ish a.m. Take care, everyone.
See you guys.